Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice radio, so today I am showing you a new Hydreigon card. This is going to be coming out in Sun and Moon for Crimson Invasion. It is a promo you get in Japan when you buy a booster box. So, is it actually any good? Well, 160 HP is fairly standard nowadays for a Stage 2, as weird as that sounds. Retreat cost of 2 is my least favourite retreat cost, as I've said a number of times. 1 is cheap, 3 is heavy ball, 2 is just rubbish. Resistance to Psychic is always good, especially with Garbodor and Espeon running around. Weakness to Fighting is rubbish because Marshadow is going to be an amazing tech against anything weak to fighting. And of course, being a Stage 2 is awkward because of the whole rare candy evolving up malarkey. Hey ho, you can't have it all. Now, Dark decks look like they are going to be good in the near future. Yveltal's always been good, Darkrai has always been good, Darkrai GX is coming out, which is going to make these Darkrai decks much, much speedier, because if you've got a Darkrai in your discard, a Darkrai GX, you get to put it on your bench and attach a Darkness energy from your discard to it in the process. I think Darkrai decks are about to become an awful lot better, and they've been good for a while anyway. So there is a chance here that Hydreigon could be good, could be fun. Now we're going to start with the attack. It's the least impressive thing here. 2 dark, 1 colourless, 120 damage. You may discard an energy attached to this Pokemon. If you do, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active. Now 120 would be one of these 1-hit KO if they're weak, 2-hit KO if they're not attacks. But very, very little is weak to dark. Now, you have got Lunala GX, but as well as seeing basically no play, you'd actually need a Choice Band or a Kukui to get the KO, else you'd only be doing 240. But I am quite intrigued by the extra part of the attack here, that you can, if you choose, discard an energy attached to you and an energy attached to them. Now, this could be quite a lot of fun. Well, it really comes down to what decks you want to. So take, for instance, Turtonator. Turtonator could be really good in the near future. We're going to do a video about him later in the week. And Turtonator discards 2 energy to attack. So a lot of the time what you're going to really want to do with Turtonator is pile energy on so that you can attack 2 or 3 turns in a row. If you get extra energy discard from something like Hydreigon here, this could actually be incredibly useful. Or if your opponent is really reliant on double colourless energy, you can make sure to get rid of it with this, really try and limit your opponent's options in the mid to late game. Or just if your opponent's having one of those games where they're just not drawing energy. We've all had them. If your opponent's struggling to draw energy, this could be a lot of fun. The problem with this attack, quite simply, is we've got other darkness attackers. We've got Yveltal, who's always been a great attacker. We've got Darkrai from Breakpoint, who not only does loads of damage for 2 energy, if you get a load of energy on your bench, but if Darkrai gets KO'd, you only lose those 2 energy, you keep the rest of it. And that is a great, great thing here. In terms of non-GX attackers for Darkness, maybe we're a little bit more thin on the ground, but we've still got Baby Yveltal, hey Nick, who still does a decent amount of damage for free energy, whilst having Oblivion Wing and, crucially, a resistance to fighting rather than a weakness to fighting, which could be crucial against something like a Marshadow deck. So, as it stands, I'm not loving Hydreigon as an attacker, but I am loving the ability here. Screen out. Once during your turn, you may choose 3 of your bench Pokemon, discard your other bench Pokemon and all cards attached to them. Does this sound familiar? It should. It's basically using Parallel City on yourself, reducing your bench size to 3, and there are several reasons this could be really useful. I'm a huge fan of Vespiquen. Now, Vespiquen is a deck that really relies on using non-EX-GX attackers that only give up 1 prize to try and KO 2 prize EX and GX attackers. So you really don't want to use cards like Shaymin and more recently Tapu Lele, but sometimes you have to use those Pokemon. just to set up in the game. Wonder Tag from Tapu Lele, set up from Shaymin. They are too good. Alrighty then, so what do we do instead? We play Parallel City, and I play one copy of Parallel City in my Vespiquen deck. And it is for this. It is so that in the mid to late game, before my opponent Lysanders, or I suppose nowadays Guzmas, up that Shaymin or Tapu Lele, I can drop a Parallel City. I can discard the Shaymin and Tapu Lele off of my bench so that my opponent cannot get cheeky prizes. We also see a very similar thing going on with Mega Gardevoir here. Mega Gardevoir's got a great attack that allows you to discard Pokemon off your bench, doing an extra 10 damage for every Pokemon that you do. But an awful lot of the time, this is really just used to get rid of bench Pokemon that are about to be KO'd. Because it just stops your opponent taking prizes. So maybe you use this to get rid of a Shaymin or a Tapu Lele, although do remember Shaymin is expanded only. But maybe instead you use this to get rid of a Darkrai EX that's about to be KO'd. Maybe you used a Darkrai GX and then used an energy switch onto another one of your Pokemon. Maybe you then use this to get rid of that Darkrai GX so that you can reuse the ability and get another energy, and that could be a fun thing to do here. A lot of these Darkrai GX decks may well be using Energy Switch, so use Darkrai's ability to grab a Darkness Energy, Energy Switch it onto another Pokemon, discard it with Hydreigon, and then you can straight away use that ability a second time to get that Darkrai back, and then you got 2 energy in one turn with the same Darkrai. And there really are a huge amount of uses for this ability. Stopping your opponent taking prizes. I mean, heck, in the mid to late game, you're going to be really worried about your opponent using Guzma to drag up one of your bench Pokemon to strand it in the active. Maybe you're out of switching cards. I do this in my Gardevoir deck, which I play on my stream at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio all the time. In the late game, when I've got 1 or 2 more prizes to take, I will discard everything on the bench that isn't a backup Gardevoir GX. Why? So that my opponent cannot Guzma stall me. So many uses here. Stopping Guzma stalling. Stopping your opponent taking cheeky prizes off the bench. Reusing Darkrai GX, and sometimes, and this is a fairly simple use, but I've got to say it anyway, just clearing your bench. You might really need to search for a Guzma. Best way to search for a Guzma, Tapu Lele. But you might not have space on your bench to put a Tapu Lele to allow you to Wonder Tag to grab a Guzma. So what do instead? You use Hydreigon, clear your bench, and then you go ahead and use Tapu Lele to grab that Guzma. Now, one thing we do have to mention here is that Hydreigon BREAK is still in the format. It came out in Steam Siege. It's not going away. Well, I mean, it is going away eventually, but it is not going away at least until next September. Now, what does Hydreigon BREAK actually do? 2 things. Number 1, gives you an extra 30 HP. And we've seen this with Yveltal BREAK, although not for a while, admittedly. We've actually seen it recently. I was watching Liverpool Regionals yesterday. There was a Greninja player playing Talonflame, as Greninja players often do, who played a single Talonflame BREAK to put it out of range of being KO'd by a Drampa using Berserk. That could be a fun thing to do here with Hydreigon. Although, to be fair, with 160 HP, you are already out of range of a Drampa. You go from 160 to 190. Is it worth it? I don't know, maybe. You've also got an attack here, Calamity Blast. 150, discard 3 energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. That is a great attack, but it's really expensive and it involves Psychic Energy. Now, clearly this was designed for Double Dragon Energy, and here I might be saying, hey, it's worth playing 1 Hydreigon BREAK and 1 Double Dragon Energy just to take advantage of this, but Double Dragon Energy has rotated. So Hydreigon BREAK gives you an extra 30 HP, makes you Dragon type, but nothing, and I mean literally nothing, is weak to Dragon, and gives you an attack you're probably not going to be able to use because you're not playing Psychic Energy, and Double Dragon has been rotated. So even if you play Hydreigon, I think Hydreigon BREAK is staying in the binder. So are we going to be playing Hydreigon? And the answer is, if you've got room in your deck, if you've got room on your bench, this is a great ability. This has so many uses. I've given you a bunch, there's almost certainly more. I adore this ability. But it's a stage 2 Pokemon. If you're playing a stage 2 deck anyway, and you're playing Rare Candy, you can just play one Dino, one Hydreigon, and if you're playing Rare Candy anyway, it could be a fun tech. But then you've got the retreat cost of 2, which is a little bit awkward. And it's still an extra 2 slots in your deck. And let's face it, at the moment, we've still got Parallel City. So there is a strong argument here that if you really want to use this, you could use Parallel City. Although admittedly, Parallel City's a one-time thing, rather than Hydreigon being potentially every single turn. But I'm going to give Hydreigon between 2 and 3 Wassies, with the important caveat that we don't give half Wassies because we are not barbarians. I love this ability, but I just don't know if anyone's going to find the room in their deck. I'd love to be wrong, and if you think I'm wrong, or if you think I'm right, or if you just want to say hello, that's what the comment section is there for. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter @TheWassie, and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio for some live action. And if you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods and preferential treatment having games on stream, then you can go and check it out at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. The most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.